do begin tonight with the breaking news. There's been a major turn in that manhunt after the deadly mass shooting at Brown University. Late today, sources told ABC News there's a possible connection with that shooting and then the murder of an MIT professor just days later. And then tonight, police moving in. You'll see the images right here. Matt Rivers leading us off with the breaking news tonight.
Tonight, after 6 days on the run, authorities say they have finally located the suspect in the deadly Brown University mass shooting. Sources say he has now been found dead. Authorities now investigating a possible connection between the deadly mass shooting at Brown University and the killing of an MIT professor of.
There is absolutely 100% a connection. This was not random. First things first, the woman, the girl I'm dating right now, she's Brazilian. She immediately recognized the last name of the MIT professor as being Portuguese. Guess who else is Portuguese? The shooter. So according to our records, the shooter actually went to Brown University in 2000 through 2000 to 2003. He also studied physics. I'm looking at this man here who is the professor who is a victim, and I was thinking to myself, what if this was something to do with his research? But it's looking a little bit more and more like this was possibly a crime of passion. Folks, I think we have another trans gay shooter that just did another attack. Another one. They all have been lately. From Charlie Kirk to Donald Trump's shooter to the school shootings. This appears to be a crime of passion. This man right here, even with kids, he appears to be gay. There are AI programs that can scan the faces of humans and tell you which men, well, specifically it works for men, which men have the highest likelihood of being gay because there's certain characteristics they have. I can look at this man and tell you that he's one of them. And then when I look at the suspect, the man who they said did the shooting, you can look at his build. Also, you look at his background. He has no wife. He has no kids. The only thing that's suspicious is, though he was living in Miami, reported he had a storage in Salem. People that have a storage unit means that they don't want to have a lot of human contact. They don't want to get a lease. They don't want to stay at a hotel. They're trying to be covert. They said that he had been in the area traveling around for the past couple of weeks. It seems like he was trying to find out where this professor lived. Being that they're remote, they worked in the same field, they're about the same age. Maybe at one point in time, they were likely romantically involved. Again, they're both Portuguese. They both speak the same language, similar background. And if they're both gay, this will turn out to be a crime of passion and not just necessarily a lapse of immigration policy, terrorism, or hunting him down because he had some kind of amazing breakthrough in astrophysics or in fusion. This is likely something as simple. I just did a video about a woman who flew to another state just to kill the new girlfriend of the ex-boyfriend. And she only knew the ex-girlfriend because she's seen her on Facebook. And she did her research. She got on an airplane. She flew down. She rented a car and literally drove to the woman's house. Now, why he would shoot up Brown University? What if this was the source? What if this was his first gay encounter in Brown University? Is where he met his first gay lover. He would resent the school, and because I'm looking at the makeup of the victims of the students, they were both young. It didn't seem like there would be any connections between them. They weren't studying the same subjects or anything. So it seems like he took his revenge out at the place, which was the source. You know, I try to tell people the gay agenda is the depopulation agenda. That's why it's unhealthy to promote it to children or expose it to them young, because it does generate confusion, resentment, and you do, as a man, you're going to feel feminine. One thing that one feminine trait that makes that lifestyle detrimental is you don't believe in accountability. A person who doesn't believe in personal accountability for their decisions will blame everything, everyone, and everywhere for where they end up because of their own personal decisions. He could likely just see Brown University as the place that started him on a path to end up being at a point where not only was he depressed, angry, confused, but he's suicidal. That lifestyle is a very lonely lifestyle. Being a trans man or being gay, I mean, being a man is just hard enough. Imagine being a gay man. There's no wife, there's no children in the future, there's nothing. So, of course, because again, that is the gauge agenda is the depopulation agenda. You are suicidal, but let's be real. Nobody wants to die alone. That's the angle that I see that this is all happening from. But we're going to go through this story and let them speak a little bit more.
Nuclear science. Police previously releasing images of this man, described as 5'8" with a stocky build.
Definitely a gay man. Look at how he walks. Look at his build. He's even wearing a man purse, but he has a mask and beanie on. This was not a terrorist attack. This was not a lapse on immigration. We got to block everybody from Portugal or from Brazil. This was a crime of passion. This was a gay man who's already on the edge, who didn't want to die alone. And he could not let the first man he was probably ever with, the first man he ever loved, he just couldn't let it go. And he traced probably all the issues in his current day life as a lonely, depressed gay man back to not just that school, but that first lover of his that was able to mask what he really does and become a father and have kids and kind of, change his lifestyle enough to keep going. A lot of them don't live as long as him, but that lifestyle is a short-term lifestyle. If you want to continue to live and be a part of society, you're going to have to live a conservative lifestyle. You don't see gay men make it to 60 or 70 or maybe 50 years old. That lifestyle, one day you just wake up and you off yourself because again, you don't have anything to live for. You realize that you can't reinvent the wheel. Men and women and humans in general were meant to live a certain way within a very narrow lane of parameters. Once you're trying to venture outside of those, it's kind of like someone trying to water grass with Gatorade. It just doesn't work. So the only time these men survive, even if they're gay, is if they get a wife, they have kids, and that's just their secret lifestyle on the side. But when it becomes your entire identity, death is in your future. They don't want to die alone. And these crimes of passion between the gay community are extremely, extremely common. So let's keep that in mind. But you can look at this man's build, the way he walks, his man purse. This was a crime of passion. And that will come out subsequently in the days. You guys will just think I'm some kind of brilliant savant. I'm not. My job is to just study people and human behavior and report it to you and to my audience. And then you guys can go back and cross-reference it for yourself. That's why I'm so anti the LGBT community pushing their agenda and their bullshit on children. Because I know men, I've met men that when they were introduced to that, and then once they grew out of it, they couldn't live with themselves no more, and they don't live with themselves anymore. They self-delete. That comes with the territory. So if you think about this, if we're at war, would it be easier for a weaker country than us to actually try to fight us hand to hand? Mano a mano, their soldiers versus our soldiers? Absolutely not. They'd get crushed. But what if this country was so clever, they could find ways to introduce policies and a lifestyle to our men that will subsequently convince them to kill themselves? That way, they're not there to fight in the coming war in the first place. Well, then that would just make this other country brilliant. And it would make us idiots for not being able to curve that influence, knowing that it's being weaponized. Weaponizing one's sexuality and using it against them is how you take down entire families, you take down entire communities. Parents and families are already in this country divided. Their kids are now gay after going to these universities, and they hate the parents who are conservative. But think about it. Your parents only had sex and had you because they live a conservative lifestyle. You come from that. But if you don't live that lifestyle, you'll never have kids. So you guys are going to be at odds with each other. They've successfully turned our children against us. Feminism is a derivative of the gay agenda. It turned our wives against us too. You got to think about it. Here in America, as men, we've lost everything. We've lost our women. Look around. We lost our women to feminism. We lost our children to the gay LGBT agenda. And remember, men like this, in this picture, they cannot reproduce. Two men can reproduce. So what do? They have to recruit your kids. That's why they go so hard in these school board meetings to justify needing access to your kids. They're just trying to keep up their numbers. They don't want to go extinct either. You got to understand it's deeper than this. You're going to see these types of crimes of passion more and more often as this lifestyle becomes more and more acceptable. You know, these people want you to affirm their sexual attraction with children. But for now, they're just going to, between adults, it's going to start here. But that's already the next step. But this lifestyle ultimately does lead to what you're seeing right here on your screen.
Captured on surveillance walking in the neighborhood near the location of Saturday's attack. Around 4 p.m., authorities say a shooter fired more than 40 rounds inside a lecture hall in an engineering building, killing 2 students, Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Umarzakov, and injuring 9 others.
I would imagine that lecture hall used to be a classroom or another area where he studied in, and him and the MIT professor, they both occupied that room together. That's probably where it all began. And you know what? Since he was already suicidal, he just went down memory lane. I just want to know how long ago he had that storage in Salem and why. There's no records of him living in that area. And if this was just a impulsive crime of passion, how did he know to book a storage room and what was there? What was he doing? If he had an accomplice and it wasn't the same guy and this wasn't a crime of passion, then that's problematic. But I don't see that as being the issue. Occam's razor typically means that the simplest answer is the correct one. And the simplest thing to assume here is that the professor lived a secret lifestyle and this man lived on the outside. And he wanted him to come out. He couldn't just live with the fact that you moved on, you have a family, and I have nothing. We had plans. You see, women go through it daily, but women can handle heartbreak and disappointment better than men. Yeah, men, we can't take it. We ended up doing stuff like this. That's why I can recognize what this is. And hopefully I'm making enough points to you where you guys understand this too, because tomorrow you're going to have to explain to people who are curious about what happened. And they're not going to want to explore. They're not going to want to explore the gay angle because that goes against the narrative. They're going to want to tell you that this is a lapse on immigration and probably a terror attack and blah, 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 blah. It's not. I'm pretty much 100% sure it's not.
Soon after, a person of interest caught on surveillance appearing to walk away from the building as a police car pulls up. Federal and local law enforcement swarming the area searching for the killer. Providence Police! Then 2 days later, about 50 miles away in Brookline, Massachusetts, esteemed MIT nuclear scientist Nuno Lorenzo.
Does that look like a extremely heterosexual man to you? Does he just brew? Does everything, do you just see testosterone pouring out of his pores? Or can you see him in a go-go club with nipple pasties on, dancing around with in a thong that says "Eat me" in the front while wearing roller skates? Don't ask about my imagination. Let's just focus on the fact that he is not your just average professor. He's a freaky little man, and he had a secret lifestyle, and I bet you his wife will not be extremely surprised. In other cultures and other parts of the world, this is normal. I used to live in Germany. And because you have red light districts in other parts of the world, you don't have to pretend to be super macho and a super gangster and super manly to attract a wife and have a family, because you don't need to impress women to have sex. You can literally just go to a red light district and pay 25 Euro and have a good time. And you don't really necessarily have to be like in America here in the United States. That's why there's so many men in jail and so many men in the grave, is because we're trying to do everything we can our whole lives to impress women so we can have sex, because prostitution is illegal and it's frowned upon in Europe, in Portugal, in Brazil, in South America. Prostitution is legal and is promoted. So as a man, you don't necessarily have to make a lot of money to get sex. You don't have to show that you're a big, strong, tough guy to get sex. That's why in America we're so manly and so much bravado about ourselves, and we're just so like tough. You want to show off. You want women to know you're there, because we're competing with other men for women, because we're fighting for sex. But in other parts of the world where prostitution is legal, you don't need to do all that. You can just be a regular string bean guy, and if you want to have sex with a woman, you can just go pay a small amount of money, have sex. You take a shower in her little office space room, and then you go on about your day. You're not even stressed if you're going to meet a woman and meet a wife. That's not even one of your worries, because women are easy. If anything, they're looking for you just so that they can have a family. But it's not the pressures you have here in the United States. So you're going to see a lot of men that are bisexual, or they have a wife now, but they also, again, wear the roller skates with the thong and the nipple pasties, and they spin around in in raves and stuff like that. They have a side life. Very, very normal in other cultures and other parts of the world. It's fairly secretive and unique here in the United States. So that's why there's a bit of a learning curve. I've lived abroad for years. I've seen this and I've observed it, and I've made these connections between cultures and people, and I've seen it long ago. So, and I've discussed it before on other platforms. It's probably my first time actually going into extreme detail here on YouTube, but this needs to be out there. You have to understand the people, because, well, both of them are dead now. Dead men tell no tales. Now, his wife might not want to besmirch his good name because they have children, but eventually his other secret lifestyle will come out. They don't want to talk bad about the dead, but you'll find out that the killer, the killer, who's also Portuguese, they have something in common. They're both from that culture. You're going to find out he was gay. You're going to find out that was his lifestyle. They're not going to want to tell you at first, but you'll find out. They literally have that exact same build. Big old gut in the front, man purse, and they walk like this. I see you go to Miami. You'll see them walking around. Gucci, Louis. I'm telling you, I literally spent years around these people when I lived abroad, South America, Europe. I mean, I speak their languages. I live with them. So this was very common to see. So again, this man right here was also gay. He wasn't just it's not like you just walked up on the manliest man in the world. I mean, this was a crime of passion.
Arrow found suffering from multiple gunshot wounds in the entryway of this 3-story building Monday night.
Reported gunshot. Father was shot multiple times.
Loureiro, a husband and father of 3, died at the hospital the next morning.
David, authorities initially said that they did not believe that these 2 shootings were connected, but tonight this blockbuster development. But so far, investigators have not said what connection, if any, the suspect might have to either Brown or MIT.
Matt Rivers, if you found out he was gay, you wouldn't be surprised. Milo Yiannopoulos outed Benny Johnson. Then you go look at Benny Johnson. No one's surprised. They have a particular look to them. There are key points in their face where there's a pattern of certain men's facial structure that even an AI can pinpoint and determine if they are gay or not. It's not just something it's not just something that goes on internally in your mind. It's a decision. Maybe some people are born that way, and that's how you can tell by looking at them. So that's what we're going to discover about this in the future. And I'm noticing that I'm just the first person to actually cover this topic from this angle, but that's my job. My job is to see where people are going to go and get there first. My job is also to understand. I'm a very understanding person of all angles. I don't let my personal biases dictate how I'm going to frame certain subjects and topics. That's why some people like talking to me. Hopefully you enjoy my content. If you're listening to this and you want to hear more, please like the video, push me into the algorithm. I'm going to continue talking. I'm on 8 platforms right now. So if you have a comment or if you agree or disagree, please go ahead and don't be scared. Leave a comment. But this is not a terror attack like they're trying to frame on other networks. But this is so new. When this first happened, I was going to do the Bondi video and then I was going to do the Brown shooting. Excuse me. However, when it comes to events that people are assuming are terrorists, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to go on historical record in the wrong direction. So I try to wait X amount of hours or so until we have more data. This data is what I was waiting for. I wanted to see what the man looked like, how he was built. Is he built like an assassin? Is he built like a Green Beret? Does he seem like he's ex-military? Ex-military? No. Maybe ex-Coast Guard. Definitely not Marines, if anything. So, it is, I'm not laughing at the subject. I'm just laughing at thinking about this guy wearing like the little sailor cap and just with his man purse and just walking. That's funny to me. I thought that was funny. But this was not what people are saying. And they're talking about it a little bit on other. I'm going to put on another actual, let's see here.
The suspect was found dead inside of a New Hampshire storage facility earlier tonight with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Just moments ago, officials said that they will.
Now, when it comes to this subject right here, I'm curious. Now, I have to know how long he's been paying for this storage unit. That's all I need to know. Now, but also, if you were planning, but you know what? I'll be honest. This person did not want to get caught. So this wasn't a suicide mission. He went through extreme lengths to hide his identity. And again, if he rented a storage, he likely was sleeping in the storage. So there would be no records of him staying at a hotel or staying at an apartment. So if he can get away with it, then he'll be able to return back to Florida. But he was caught. But this took a lot of planning if he had enough foresight to think that maybe I should get a storage unit instead of a rental while I'm trying to find out exactly where the professor lives. It seems like he was looking for this man. He didn't know where he was. So that's what I'm saying. Well, let's see how long he had this storage unit. I bet you by tomorrow they'll probably say 3 months. So maybe he's been planning this for several months. He was talking himself in and out of actually going through with it. And then probably one day he was like, you think about it, you have some bad luck. Somebody cut you off in traffic. You get an NSF charge on your debit card or something bad happens and it just pushes you over the edge. And those plans that you already had of ending your life, you decide to go ahead and make good on them. I say this because, that's a common thing for men too. I was watching Scott Adams the other night. He has terminal cancer right now. And I was watching one of his videos from a few months ago, and he was actually trying to plan his own assisted suicide. And that was a very manly thing to do. You know, everybody doesn't want to see them suffer, but also, man, we just don't handle pain very well. Physical pain is one thing, but emotional pain is another. And if you look at American crime statistics, a lot of men that are gay they kill other men. They kill their ex-lover. They kill the man that their ex-lover was with. We don't take heartache and rejection very well. We just don't. We're not like women. Women can take a licking and keep on ticking, but not us. You give us 3 bad situations in a row, and we're bachelors for life. We are not risking it anymore. Women they can have kids, meet another guy, kid, they can keep going. Men, we're just not that strong. So I can understand that he literally planned this and he probably backed out 2 months ago, but he still had the storage unit. And he was like, you know what, let me go. Let me just go do it. And he came here and he didn't know where the guy lives and he's trying to figure it out. But he remembered where they both met at Brown University. So look it up. They're both about the same age. They're both Portuguese. They both attended Brown. This was a crime of passion. They were lovers at one time. And rejection hurts. People talk about what they would do if they catch their ex in bed with somebody all the time. Think about it. If you're hearing my voice right now, if you're watching this video, what would you do? I mean, have you ever had any homicidal thoughts about your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? You're not a human if you haven't. Everyone's experienced pain before. So let's not pretend that this is uncommon.
Believe this person was also responsible for the murder of an MIT professor 2 days after that Brown shooting. Take a listen.
Federal agents breached a storage locker in Salem, New Hampshire, in search of Claudio Neves Valente, a Portuguese national we believed shot and killed 2 Brown University students and an MIT professor in Brookline, Massachusetts.
Unfortunately, those students were just collateral damage. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, when it comes to killers or people like this, we all have an origin story. If he traces back, see, this other man has a kids and a wife, and he moved on. This man, once he became gay back then, he never moved on. That became his entire lifestyle. That's why sending your kids to these universities it's very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous because they will turn them into a gay liberal with pink or blue hair in a heartbeat. Now you've lost your kids to that community. But if you're looking for where your life went wrong, if you're blaming your loneliness, your sadness, your depression on being gay, if your first gay experiences were in college, you're going to blame the college. And if that's the room that you and him first met in, the first lecture hall you ever sat in, where you guys were both there at the same time, then you're going to want to shoot up that lecture hall. And like I said, those unfortunate students were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Somebody might get into I just seen a video the other day. A woman seen her ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend walking out of a CVS. So she took her car and tried to ram them. Ends up hitting a little small pole, and the car jumped and it flew over them, and she landed on an old man who was walking into the convenience store. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. These kids, unfortunately, it's worse than Final Destination. One step to the left or one step to the right. It could have been somebody else, or it could have been, it was just a million variables. Unfortunately, they just had poor luck on that day. It was nothing to do with themselves. It's life. Anything can happen at any moment. You know, that's why I tell people life is precious. Appreciate it. Don't take it for granted. Do something every single day that's important. Don't waste it. You know, you don't miss it until it's gone. And you see how young they were, and they're gone now. But this man has been living, I tell people that gay lifestyle, they are not happy. They are angry. They are resentful. They are, a lot of them are very mean and evil. That's why they try to come out and do all the virtue signaling and pretend that they're so good, they're so happy, they're so loving, except it's all a cover. It's all a mask. And just like with any makeup, eventually the mask is going to rinse off.
MS Now investigative reporter Mark Santia joins me now. Mark, thanks so much for joining me. What else?
Mark doesn't have the markers on his face that indicate he's gay. You can look at certain men, you can look at their facial structure, and you can just see it up front. And if people in the chat, you can look it up. There's AI programs that can tell you if you're gay because of there's certain points in your facial features. If you know what they look for, you can tell if somebody's gay without them even speaking.
What else do we know about the suspect and what happened this evening?
Yeah, I want to give you a live look what's happening behind me. This is still a very active scene. Evidence response team from the FBI, they're here collecting clues. At this point, they do not have a motive. This is what we know.
Maybe somebody should tag the FBI in this video. I cracked the case for them. They're going to spend weeks going in the wrong direction. Also, they're not going to want to disparage the LGTB elemental P community. So that's going to make them slow poke to the public when they do find out that what I'm saying right now is 100% correct. There is not going to be any other way this went. This wasn't a sophisticated thing where there was another killer and they had them both wipe each other and they had a suicide pill and they took it. No, bro, he's gay. They don't do good in jail. Why do you think they hate Trump so much? Trump made it illegal to be a pedophile again. In jail, we know what they do to pedophiles. That's why they said, I'm fighting for my life when I'm fighting against Trump, because they know because of Trump, they'll go to jail for hurting kids. And in jail, they're going to die. So they are literally fighting for their lives when they're trying to fight to get these policies changed. They want to be affirmed in their sexuality. But as of today, their sexuality is criminal. Being attracted to children is criminal. Targeting kids for sex, depending on where you live in the country. If you're in California, you can slide by. But in the rest of the civilized parts of the nation, of our republic, it is criminal. So they're fighting for their lives. They're not going to jail. They're not going to do good in jail. They're not going to last in jail. So do you want to go out on the terms of law enforcement, or do you want to go on your own terms? If you're already suicidal, it's an extremely easy decision. Look up gay crimes of passion. This happens every day. The only difference is you just don't know the professor was also gay yet. When they start telling you about this man, the shooter that came up here from Miami, you're gonna find out he was gay. You're gonna find out. But the guy he killed moved on with his life and he has a wife with children. He's able to live a normal, happy life. While this gay man, who they typically don't live to be that old, is battling with his demons every day, and he doesn't have a family, doesn't have children, he doesn't have nothing. Because there's that lifestyle, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. You're just having random sex with men, and there's never going to be a child that's going to be a product of the sex. There won't be a wife, there won't be a wedding, there won't be any children. As a man, as a human adult, we all want to get married, we all want to be fathers, we all want to have babies. We're very simple creatures at the end of the day. You take that away from us, and there's nothing to live for. And that's why so many of them commit crimes of passion or they commit suicide. Look up the numbers. It's not, don't let Rico tell you, don't listen to Rico Limbaugh. Look at the numbers and you can figure this out for yourself. I'm just able to talk about it because I'm not worried about, people are going to be offended or mad. It is what it is. The facts are the facts. What does Shapiro say, you guys' his friend? Facts don't care about your feelings. And that part is true. Now, all the other bullshit Shapiro says nobody likes, which is why they're having so many issues. That's why people like me will be in the forefront as journalists talking to the public while the whole Daily Wire is going to disintegrate. So I'm able to have these conversations with you because I don't have anybody I'm beholden to that's going to tell me to stay away from certain topics. I'm going to discuss these angles. This is my own network, and I appreciate you guys being here. And there's hundreds of you in here listening to this, and I appreciate you guys. And I'm clearing this up for you. Some people's minds don't want to go this far. Mine does. And I'm able to look down the road and figure out where things are going to be and make these connections. You know, these guys used to have probably secret sexual conversations in Portuguese in front of people, and they had no idea what they were talking about. This was probably his man, and it was his man at one time. And this was, like I said, this is the one that got away, and he couldn't live with it. You'll see in the subsequent days.
Investigators say the suspect in the Brown University mass shooting has been found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound right there in the storage facility in New Hampshire. He's believed to have taken his own life tonight. Police have identified him as Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, 48 years old, a former student at Brown University.
And how old was the MIT professor? Dun, 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 dun. 48 years old as well. They're both 48. I won. I cracked the case. I beat the FBI. I beat local police. I beat the media. I'm the first media personality to report on this crime, but I actually solved it within the same live. We've been on for 36 some odd minutes now, and I've already cracked the case. You guys are welcome. Congratulations to all of us. I do appreciate all your input as well. I see you guys in the comments. Thank you. Share the video, like the video, let everybody know we figured out what happened and we solved the crime. We're way ahead of the police. By the time the police come around, you guys are going to come back to this video. You're going to come back to my page and you're going to say you called it early. They're not going to want to admit this is the case. You're going to have to find out. They're going to write about it, but no one's going to actually do a video about it. I'm already doing the video about it because, well, I live in the future. Would you rather me tell you 5 days from now or 2 weeks from now? Would you rather me tell you right now? The future is here. We're already living it. Some of us just live a little bit further ahead. So yeah, they're both the same age. They were lovers. This was a crime of passion. This wasn't about his groundbreaking fusion research. A lot of that stuff is make-believe. Just even physics, it's theoretical physics in itself is theoretical. That's why they call it theoretical physics. It's all fake. It requires a overactive imagination and a unique ability to not feel any type of way about lying to the public, pretending to be a specialist. It's like getting a degree in Pokemon training. I mean, you could study all the comics. You can have a whole curriculum, Charizard, Pikachu, and you can understand how to train them and everything. Still won't make it that Pokemon exists. You can know everything about them, but they still won't exist. And unfortunately, that's what physics and theoretical physics, especially, that's what it all is. Talking to you about nebulas, quasars, tachyons, black holes, nebulas, Jupiter, Saturn, all fake. You can study them, won't make them real. You can talk about them. You can believe in them. They can make TV shows about them. They made TV shows about Pokemon. Doesn't make them real. Maybe in the metaverse in the future, space will be real and so will Pokemon. Maybe you can take a Pokemon to space, or maybe you get to space and you bump in and you can become friends with a fucking Pokemon. Everything will be possible in the metaverse. But in the current reality universe, these guys are gay.
He was enrolled only in physics classes for a Master's of Science PhD program in physics. He started at Brown September 1st, 2000. He took a leave of absence April 2001 before formally withdrawing July 31st, 2003. Now, physics classes are held in the Barris and Holly building. That is where Valente opened fire last Saturday, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others. Valente, according to investigators, was a Portuguese national. His last known address was in Miami, Florida. The FBI says they are still working to determine a motive why he targeted students who were preparing for finals inside the engineering building.
He didn't target the students. He targeted the building. Have any of you been to Miami lately? It's literally the non-black gay capital of the East Coast. The West Coast, obviously, is San Francisco. If you're black, then it's going to be Atlanta. Probably Houston is number 2. I live in Houston. I see them everywhere. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with, it's not my job as a man to judge what other men do. You can stick your dick in a blender for all I care at the end of the day. Just leave kids alone. And there's no beef with me. But you can still critique and study the lifestyle. It's 2025. We've had the internet now social media for over 15 years. So we can literally study anything. We have all the records. We can look at all the patterns. And my brain works like an AI. We were looking for familiarity, and you're looking for a pattern. You're using pattern recognition. So anything that I'm saying about the gay community, certain behavior, the lifestyle, it's all because it's been documented already. There's nothing new under the sun. Before social media, it was hard for us to keep track of certain events. Something would happen here, something happened there. But now that we have social media, you can make instant connections and see there is a pattern, there are connections, and this, that, and the third. The problem is certain people are worried about what others are going to think, so they block out certain aspects. They just don't want to consider those. I don't have those restrictions mentally. So I look at all the data, and then that's how I'm able to disseminate and discern certain outcomes. And this is what I've already pulled from this situation. So it's not to disparage anyone's lifestyle. It's just that I can point out behaviors. I can point out behaviors of a lot of different communities and their lifestyles because the patterns are already recorded. We have something called Facebook. You can go look at everybody's lives and how things turned out the past 15 years, 20 years now on Facebook. It's all there. All the data's there. So it doesn't take rocket science, and you don't have to be, you don't need a time machine anymore. You have social media. Social media is our time machine. So now you can understand where we can pull a lot of this data from. It doesn't require you to, talk bad about somebody. It is what it is. If you say one particular group has the lowest reading comprehension skills and literacy rates, that's not you bashing that community. That's you literally reading the numbers. So we can just look at the data based on the history, and that's how you can pull information and say, oh, okay, there's a pattern. I've actually seen this happen before. This isn't the first time. It's not the last time it's going to happen either.
At Brown University, police say tracking the killer was a combination of high-tech policing and old-fashioned police work. A license plate reader hit on the plate. Detectives and agents followed the leads to a rental car location. They pulled video, and that was the break in the case. They say police found the rental car right here in New Hampshire. Now, also tonight, investigators are telling us Valente, after committing the shooting at Brown, then drove to Massachusetts, where he killed an MIT professor in his home 2 days later. They're now looking to see if the same rental car was at both locations. They're verifying that. Again, there's a lot of work.
The answer is yes. They saw both rental cars in the area at both locations. Now, the East Coast, the Eastern Seaboard, the map makes it look big, but it's actually a lot smaller than here on the West Coast. So these are driving distance, less than an hour and a half typically, to go from Brown to MIT, from Salem to, and even though these are different states, it's a very short drive. It's the Eastern Seaboard. It's a compressed area. So it doesn't require, you don't have to fly or do anything like that. You can literally just drive and just go there. It's very easy. So yeah, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to update the title of this video to be, I'm going to say gay, crime of passion, Portuguese, ex-students, murders other Portuguese. I'm going to do something. I'm going to come up with a title, and I'll explain what's really happening today. Other people are going to catch up in about, I would give it no less than I'll give it 5 days, because you have the weekend coming up. There's a holiday. A lot of people are taking off. So and then, you're not going to be able to talk about the gay aspect on the news. They're not going to touch that. So this is all going to it comes down to Rico Limbaugh. And you guys are here to share this moment with me. We cracked one of our first cases instantly, just by looking at patterns. So you guys are, we're all here. We're all in this together. So it's good to have a community. So that's great.
Work that still needs to be done. But they say Valente, after the shooting at Brown, then drove to Massachusetts, where he killed a professor who was working at MIT. Officers and agents, again, the FBI's ERT, emergency response team, they are here. They're going in and out of the storage facility. They're working to get more answers. Namely, at this point, they say they do not have a motive. They do not know what caused Valente to go on this violent spree.
I do. I know the motive and I know why. And you know what else I'm thinking? I bet you this MIT professor, I bet you he used to work at Brown. And the other Portuguese gay dude that killed him, I bet you that's where he thought he was going to be. So he gets all the way up there, finds out he's not employed at that school anymore and he's somewhere else. And he moved. Now he's like, what do I do? So that's probably why he was trying to figure out where he's going to stay. And he's driving around the city for days. He doesn't know where this guy is. And it took him time to track him down. But he probably initially thought he was working at Brown University, but he's no longer there. Now he's at MIT. And it took him time to track the guy down. That's probably what we're going to find out in the days that was what took so long and why he was still up there. And that's why he had to get a storage unit. He needed somewhere to stay because even though this was a suicide mission in case he gets caught, and he could have got away. If it wasn't for some of our tracking technology now, he probably would have got away. But he was planning on, escaping back to Florida. But I'll be honest, as soon as he landed in Florida, he was going to off himself anyway. I mean, he has nothing to live for, but no one wants to just turn themselves into the police knowing what's going to happen. So, I mean, it's a tricky situation when you're in that mental mind state. And unless you're in it, you're not going to understand how some of these people are thinking. But the depression and the mortality, knowing you're coming to the end of your life, and it's up to you if you want to end it or not, and you're already done with it. You just don't want to go alone. You want to take certain people with you. People who you might have used to love, but now you hate. When I tell you this is common, especially in gay relationships, personally, I like girls that like girls. So all my ex-girlfriends got an ex-girlfriend. I would have my ex-girlfriends would live with me. Me and my ex-girlfriends, we all lived together. It was, our little relationships. I used to tell them, like, look, you like girls, but if you were to break up with me and you and her went to go be gay together, it's not going to be the same, because one thing about relationships, especially between like lesbians, they get really, really violent because it's two women. So when you guys get into a fight and start punching each other and the police show up, it's not like there's a man there. A man's going to get arrested and go to jail. But when it's two women punching each other, it's kind of a wash. So, but those relationships are extremely violent. There's a lot of domestic violence between gay relationships, especially when it's women on women. But when it's men and the heartbreak, yeah, they're pulling up and they're cleaning, they're wiping people out. They're cleaning out the whole house. Anybody who's in the house is dead. There was just one of these that just happened in the South. Just a gay dude killed his ex-boyfriend and his new boyfriend. And nobody wanted to talk about the gay aspect at that time too. This is very common. Nobody wants to talk about it. I don't mind. I'm comfortable. We can talk about whatever. I'm here for it.
We'll send it back to you.
Mark, what do we know about the connection between this suspect and the victim at MIT?
Yeah, we're still working that out right now. We're still waiting to hear more. There's a lot of ballistics. There's a lot of tests that need to go through. And again, there were two press conferences. So we're waiting to hear exactly what the connection was. What we know is we still don't have a motive as to what put him on that violent spree, the mass shooting at Brown, and then the murder of the MIT professor. According to investigators, they are still working for a motive.
We heard during that press conference that...
Well, okay, in the comments, somebody said, what were the motives for the other two people? Well, that is where the building they were shot in is where these two men met. is where these two men, they both went to school at Brown. They're both the same age, and that likely is a hall that they shared. It was probably where they met. It was probably where he first became gay. He first became gay there. He said he had nothing to live for. He did that to himself. Well, he's an older gay man. You don't have any children. What does every man say? I live for my kids. What else? What's the second thing every man says? I live for my wife. Once you get to a certain age and there's no wife or children in your near future, you literally have nothing to live for. We are men. We are humans. We only live a certain type of way. You can try to water grass with Gatorade. It just won't work. It requires water. Humans, we have a saying, we can't reinvent the wheel. It is what it is. Now, these new alternative lifestyles that are being promoted, that's all depopulation. It all leads to less children and more death. That's it. Humans are only happy living in a certain lifestyle. And that's it. We've only lived that way since the beginning of time, which is why do you think they push the Bible so much? Why do you think the Bible? Because the Bible is a guide to how to live if you're going to be a human on earth. Now, if you don't want to live by the Bible, you can end up like these two guys, gay and dead. Not saying that the Bible is going to keep you alive, but the Bible is going to teach you how to deal with other people. It promotes you having a family. It promotes you being a father. It promotes you being a parent and creating children. It promotes you multiplying. These alternative lifestyles, there is no multiplication. There are no children in your future. You can't get pregnant and you can't get anyone pregnant because you're gay. So that lifestyle is the end. That's why I tell people, when you're pushing the gay agenda on kids, you're pushing the depopulation agenda on kids. The guy who was recently, I remember I met him a few times back in LA. He was on the Ellen show, the black dude. He had a wife and kid, but in his past as a teenager, he was doing gay stuff and it ate him up. He couldn't live with himself. And once he got past that stage in his life and realized that he was manipulated and tricked by other men and people in the church, and he battled those demons. A lot of it comes out in the form of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, where people are trying to cope with their past. A lot of young boys that are, it happens in the Catholic Church. We hear the stories, the Boy Scouts. You know, when kids are sexualized young and they're abused, they grow up confused. And they fight so that they can be normal and have a family and be okay, but they're battling on the inside. And then one day you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you just end it all. And that's what happened to the guy from the Ellen show as well. It happens a lot. I mean, if you think about what the demons Nick Reiner was dealing with his father, what do you think that was? You think that was just random? I mean, some people said he had that paranoid delusion, and he came in the house and he probably thought he saw Trump and Melania and started swinging on his parents. But I mean, it's the gay and trans and the confused sexuality stuff was in Nick's past also, and trying to put on a shirt and pretend to be normal and sit there and function in society, but behind your eyes you're ready to snap and crack. That's what a lot of these young people are dealing with. It's not just Tyler Robinson, or they're trying to pin the Charlie Kirk stuff on, which is fake. It's not just the Butler shooter and all these other trans and gay assassins and shooters that we're dealing with. Even the lady who was a trans person who dropped off those bombs that they're trying to say the guy from Bowfinger did, that was also a trans person also participating in that. These people have nothing to live for. You're not trans and you're going to have kids. So what are you going to do with your life? People in those positions can be weaponized. That's the best thing to do with them, is make them a weapon. There's nothing else for people who are in that mind space. If you're a trans person, you're never going to have kids. You're never going to have a family. You're not going to even be a functioning member of society. We live in a society where people have kids and families. The alternative lifestyle stuff doesn't work. It's not a long-term, it's a very short-term lifestyle. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. Okay? It's not even something to debate and argue about.
It's believed that the MIT professor and the suspect went to school together back in Portugal. Is that right?
That's what was said at.
And so wait a minute. They went to school in Portugal and they went to school at Brown. They were together for a long time. They became gay together. They started out young. So they went from Portugal and they even went to school together when they got to the United States. This was his first love. This was probably his last love. No other men compared to this guy. And then he tries to reconnect with him and finds out you got a wife and kids now. So we can't be together. And he's miserable. He's older, no kids, no wife. And here you are moved on with a family and you're happy. Imagine women who see their ex, who they feel like she wasted all of her younger years. And you see him moved on with a new woman, kids and wife. You were with him for 10 years. He never married you. But you guys break up. 8 months later, he's married and she's pregnant. You don't think these women want to snap? But a man like him with nothing to lose and no prospects for anything in the future, it's a lot easier to justify snapping. You guys have to understand and study human behavior and people. That's what I do. I spend my time doing it. That's all I do. I'm a people watcher. It's in my best interest to understand what's going on with those around me. That's kind of why I shy away from a lot of people as well. It's kind of a fool's errand to turn off this way of me detecting what people's behavior is going to be and just saying, just letting it happen randomly. It's like, I'm not good at letting situations get out of control. I'm better at controlling situations. But unless you understand your target audience and the people around you, then the situation is out of control. So that's all it is. Like and subscribe. Do me a favor, share this video. I do a lot of content like this pretty much all day, every day. So if you're interested, if you want to watch me and support my channel, like the channel. I'm Right Wing Rico, or I'm the Single Boyfriend, also on YouTube, and I do these episodes every day. I just want to give everybody else time to digest this. I'm reading the chat. Listen, I know this is a lot. This is a lot to take in a short amount of time. You were not expecting to hear this. Nobody else talks to you like this. So let me introduce myself. I'm Rico Limbaugh. I will talk to you directly. It's more so like it's just me and you sitting here and we're just having a conversation. That's pretty much how I prefer to do my takes. Just pretend it's just me and you. We're just having a conversation between us, in layman's terms. And I'm just trying to explain to you so you can understand this subject. You wouldn't be here if this topic did not interest your curiosity. So now you understand what happens and you have an explanation. Everyone's going to seem so confused, but not you, because you listened and you watched this video. And I explained it to you in extreme detail. And I backed up everything I said and was able to explain from every angle how it works with people based on the patterns we've seen and studied over the past 20 years. There's nothing new under the sun. The odds of this guy being an MI6 underwater scuba assassin coming over here to kill someone who just had a revolutionary breakthrough in nuclear fission is slim to none. You can look at the build of the assassin to guess his sexual identity. You can look at the face of the man that he killed to also discern his sexual identity as well. Having a wife and kids is only a cover. A lot of them have it. Look at Klaus Schwab. A gay man had a wife, but he's still the head of the World Economic Forum. The people who are top down, changing the world in their image. Yuval Noah Harari and all the rest of the guys from the World Economic Forum, all gay men. And now, like God, they are changing the world into their image. It's no coincidence that even your kids are some of them are going to be gay. This is all top down to lower the population. And it's working. Every single day, there's less and less people having kids in America and getting married. The men who want to get married and have kids are flying to other countries. That's why we have passports. So anyway, you can leave comments. We can talk about this offline. I have 2 other topics I'm going to do tonight. So please tune in, stay tuned, like the video. This is my call to action. Like the channel, share the video, subscribe, comment, etc., etc., etc. I'm extremely new to this. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm able to talk about certain topics. I just, I have insight. I've studied this stuff because I've always wondered how things get from A to Z, but people don't want to talk about all the letters in the middle. I'm like, well, I want to see about B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I want to know everything about how it got there. It's in my best interest to know everything. Being a know-it-all really save you in a lot of situations. So like and subscribe, share the video. Right Wing Rico, the single boyfriend on YouTube. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.